But welcome to episode 2 of the Do It Now podcast. We got Zaqq Hernandez in the house.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
go. Follow my boy at Zaqq Hernandez on Instagram.
Zaqq
Mm,
Hernandez on Instagram. Also, if you want, check out my greens as
yes,
well.
please shout
I
that
have my
out.
own greens supplements. It's Oz by Zach. That's AWZ by BY, and then Zach ZAQQ .com. So check that out.
Yes, sir. Please do. Great stuff. Welcome to the podcast, bro.
Hey, thank
Yes,
you for having me
yeah, of
today.
course.
Yeah,
Anytime, man. I think we've been meaning to do this for about a couple weeks now. Yeah, since I met you.
yes, sir.
Which hasn't really been that long. I think we've only known each other for maybe 2 months,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, around 2 months.
Feels like a lifetime.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes friendships feel that way.
Yeah,
Like, when you meet the right person or, someone, like, you feel like, knowing them forever after, like, meeting them after, like, 3 days. It's pretty crazy.
yeah, and I think we've connected on a lot of different topics, but I think what has made it feels like a longer time than it has is the fact that we've both been able to share so much with each other as
Hmm.
far as being vulnerable and sharing, those stories that you just don't happen to share with everybody, and you kind of build a deeper bond, deeper connection with somebody else. Um, Before we start, I will say that Zach was my wake up call this morning. We were planning on doing this today, but I think we had a misunderstanding at what time. So
Yeah,
we both said 8 o'clock,
right.
and Zach's a morning person for everybody out there listening.
Big morning person.
He likes to start his day off very very early.
Get up
What
at
time do we?
4:45
Yep.
a.m. in the morning, edit my videos, post at 6 a.m., go to the gym right after, get to the gym by 7, and then, go on with my day for the rest of the day, and then go back to bed around like 9:30.
And I'm the opposite. I'm a night owl, so I like to get all my work done at nighttime. So I was sleeping this morning, and I got a phone call, and I saw that it was Zach, and I saw that it was 8 o'clock, and he said I'm here. I was, so I felt bad. I told him to give me an extra 20 minutes because I had to get my room all cleaned up. But yeah, that's a funny story this morning. But
Yeah, and now you're gonna have a full
I'm gonna
day.
have a full day. Have a
Yeah,
great start to my morning, and
yeah,
I
man.
told him I'm like, we'll probably have to do podcast in the mornings now, just because I have all my energy. Honestly, I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel rested. I feel alert.
Wakes
So
you up, man.
yeah, it
Imagine the
does.
people that take ice baths in the morning. They're like jittered up.
Honestly, have you ever tried that?
No, I haven't. I want to though.
I mean, I haven't necessarily done a full on ice bath, but a cold shower is, I'd say, 3/10 of that.
Yeah.
And I've actually just done cold showers now. I hate hot showers,
I'm a
but
hot
cold showers
shower.
will
I
wake
like
you up.
I like my skin to burn.
Do you?
Yeah, it
I
feels
don't
good.
understand
I don't
that.
know what it is.
I
It
don't
just feels
understand
good
that.
on my body. Like, but cold, I mean, I just
Do it, man. You trust me. You
man,
switched
it's
into
like
the
jumping
cold.
in a pool and
Just
you're
do it.
just
It's the best. Like, I promise you, if you get used to it, what I found, the reason I like it is because when I mean I'm not a big scientist, or I'm not, but I found that obviously when you're breathing in oxygen. When you're breathing out carbon dioxide, right? So when you're in the cold shower, what you're doing is you're doing all that um, exhaling. So you're
yeah.
like that because you're cold and your body's trying to keep itself warm. So I find that a lot of times when I do that, and then once you catch your breath up and learn how to breathe in that cold shower, it kind of helps with anxiety as well. So it kind of helps you calm down.
Yeah, I might have to try that out.
Try it. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. But let's jump into your story, Zach. Let's for the people that don't know you out there, to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so again, my name is Zach with two Q's, super unique. I am from Topeka, Kansas. Funny story. I
Topeka.
don't, yeah, Topeka, Kansas. It
Mm.
is very interesting. Everybody knows everybody. Big if if your family does businesses or anything like that, you definitely have a known empire. I guess you could say everyone knows your family, but Yeah, I'm from Topeka, Kansas. I went to school in Georgia, so I kind of like had both sides. Like I had, a little bit of time in Georgia and a little bit of time in Kansas. Like on breaks and stuff, I would come back to Kansas, and then after like my grandfather passed away, I kind of stayed in Kansas again to be with my family, and then I ventured out and moved to Florida. And in that meantime, I kind of like went through like a whole weight loss change. I lost 184 pounds. And
Wow.
it's so weird, like, and I'm gonna send you a picture so you can like
Yeah.
post it, or like
Yeah.
side by side. But
Yeah.
I it's so weird looking at old pictures of yourself, and it's like, man, I was that person. Like, like I was that person, and then like looking at yourself now and like seeing yourself, it kind of changes you like mentally for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely wanted to show people like hey, like I know what it's like to be big, and I know what it's like not to be seen, because like in our, well, I used to do in my head, I used to fantasize about being like fit, or
Mm-hmm.
being like on covers of magazines, or
Mm-hmm.
covers like on pictures and stuff, and it was like, what, why not why am I fantasizing it when I can actually do it?
Mm-hmm.
So I just started getting the work in. I just started running, and started lifting weights with my uncles, and started like just kept going and just going to gyms, and then I started posting it, and then people started like following it, and then people started seeing my change and being like, okay, this guy, like I can do it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I was able to build my Instagram now, and still posting workouts, doing leg workouts mainly though, but
The
I mean
quad specialist.
yeah, the quad
Yes.
specialist.
The lamb chop
The
specialist.
lamb chops,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
man. I mean, there's so many names out there of my legs. It's ridiculous, but it's funny. It just makes me, think that how people are, grateful, and I'm grateful as well,
Mm-hmm.
just to be posting and helping people, and their fitness goals as well. Just not
Mm-hmm.
mentally, but also physically. So
Yeah. And I will say for anybody that has not seen Zach's legs in person, that almost both of no, actually, two of my both my legs are almost the size of Zach's one leg. And he will say the opposite, but it is yeah, he's got some giant quads.
nah, bro, they're the same size.
Yeah, shout out to James.
Shout
Right.
out to James. Yeah, yeah.
But I will say that that is very powerful in the sense of you being able to share your journey with other people. Because I've always believed that seeing is believing, right? And when somebody, when you are looking at magazines or when you are watching a movie and you see somebody doing something great, being a hero in the life, it seems a little far fetched, right? It doesn't seem attainable from that position that you're in because you feel like a normal guy. But when you see somebody that's an everyday person that is just like you and they share their story and their transformation, it seems a little bit more attainable, and you can say to yourself, I can do that too,
Right.
right? So that's very powerful that you're able to share your story with that. And I was also thinking while I'm sitting here and just listening to you speak on your journey and your transformation, even the way that you vocalize yourself and you project your voice, you can tell like when I speak to you, I can tell like this is a confident person that I'm speaking to because you take command of what you're saying, right? And I think that only happens when you're confident on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you're not, and I can speak from experience because when you're insecure and you're not confident, you shy away, right? You make yourself seem small,
Right.
right?
And not being seen. And that was like my thing, in general. I
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't being seen. And like I said, I know what it's like to not be seen. And I think that's why um, so there's so many different personalities out there, of course, but I feel like with me, I try to focus on people that are not being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's my goal. So
Mm-hmm.
like even like when it comes to like, brands that I'm like with as well, like I would rather focus on something that is not coming off the bad way, but not being seen, because you can go further by not being seen, by like pushing that motivation to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if people are just being seen, then they don't have any push or drive to keep going because they're already being seen. But if you have to put in that work and you have to keep going, then I mean, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean it make it. I love that too because obviously we've had some workouts together, and
Yeah.
you know, you definitely are always the guy that I see, and I try to do this as much as possible in the gym, is encourage people, you know, like, oh, you know, like, nice, because when you're in the
Yeah.
gym, especially in the gym,
Hmm.
but as men, we have egos, and a lot of times in our own head we think that we're competing with the guy next to us, but you don't realize that's your fellow brother, man. That's
Yeah.
somebody that's on this journey of life with you.
Yeah.
They also have struggles as much as, you know, and when you operate from that point of view and that belief system of I'm in competition, obviously you're allowing your ego to come to the forefront, and it's from insecurity, because if you're confident in yourself and you know who you are, you build other people up.
Yeah.
You don't try to tear them down, and even if it's not vocal, if you're tearing somebody down in your head to make yourself feel better, I'm like, that's not a healthy operating system to be communicating from. And you know, I've always seen you at the gym encouraging others and just making conversations. And I think, you know, from the story that you've shared so far, it seems like from where you were going from a place of not being seen, it's made you empathetic towards other people.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can kind of see yourself in somebody's shoes in a way. And I think when you're in that position of, like you said, not being seen or feeling insecure, you know what that feels like, and you don't want somebody else to feel that way either.
Right. Yeah.
What sparked the transformation? What made you say, I am going to change? If you don't mind sharing.
No, no, I just think it's funny because every time I get asked that question, I just laugh because so my uncle bought me this North Face jacket, and basically I was able to fit it when he bought it for me, like, you know, and like not even like 4 months later, I was unable to fit this jacket, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I got to get my life together, you know. And that moment there, like that same day, I like put the jacket, you know, aside, and I put, like, you know, I don't even know what I was wearing, but maybe like a tracksuit or something, and I just like went to start running around this neighborhood and kept going. Like every day I ran, like try to run a mile, like, you know, or like walk a mile or something.
Mm.
And you know, slowly and slowly I just kept slimming down and slimming down. I was able to fit the jacket, but I the jacket actually swallowed me at some point.
Wow.
But yeah, because I mean, I got pretty small.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started getting into actual weightlifting.
Okay.
And then that's when I started taking, like, you know, the creatines and all that stuff. But I yeah, that was my actual first start.
What was the fact that you saw a transformation in the mirror and the jacket was slimming down? Is that what kept you going? Because I think a lot of times people embark on a journey, whether it's fitness, whatever that journey is, and it's hard to stay consistent.
Yeah, it is. And that's why it's, I mean, sometimes, you know, with the New Year's resolutions, like, you have some people that, I mean, that's the busiest time for the gyms, you know,
Right.
and like, you know, there's some people that stay and there's some people that don't. And I feel like I had a choice. Like, you know, I was given some paint and a canvas,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do with it. Do I make a masterpiece, or do I just keep leaving the paint and the canvas there? So I
Mm-hmm.
created my masterpiece, which is Zaqq. So I just kept going, and I wanted to inspire others to keep going as well.
Let's talk about the journey in the gym, for because there are a lot of people out there that maybe were in your shoes where they felt they weren't comfortable. I don't want to say comfortable in your own skin, but they want to get into the gym and they're scared to go into the gym, maybe because they feel like somebody's going to judge them, or they just don't know what they're doing in there. Do you have any advice for people like that? How
Yeah.
did you start when you were in the gym?
Yeah, I actually I did not start in an actual gym.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate where my uncle had an actual home gym, so I kind of like worked out there until I felt comfortable. So for me, if you're, you know, just starting out and going to the gym, that is one of the biggest things. People feel like people are staring at them, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, giving that confidence. But I will say, to the other side of the fence, if you see someone that is, you know, struggling or, you know, feeling insecure, definitely give them some positive feedback, because
Mm-hmm.
that's going to help them 10 miles. You know, like that is
Mm-hmm.
like something that's going to help someone achieve and keep pushing for those goals. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you're also new into the gym, it's hard. It is going to be hard, but just know that you got this, and keep pushing.
yeah, for anybody that is familiar with what they're doing in the gym, and you see somebody that maybe is struggling or doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, definitely go
Yeah.
and give them a helping hand, dude, because you never know where that's gonna take them.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and I've always said that I think a lot of times we aspire to, you know, in our hearts deep down, like you want to change the world, right? Like you want to make a big impact on the world, and I've always said that, or I've come to terms that I don't necessarily have to impact the world. I've realized that if you impact one person in life and somebody can say, hey, you really impacted me in this way, or you changed my life, that is impacting the world, right? Because that's their world. If you change one person's world, who knows where they're going to go off and do?
Right.
They might change other people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's always important to be empathetic and have a kind heart for people and look out for one another.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, I mean, relating to you and your story,
Mm.
very similar story, actually.
Yeah.
My very first time going into a gym, it was called Genesis in Kansas City.
Perfect name.
Yeah.
Right? Perfect.
Yeah, the beginning. Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty. It's a pretty good. It's a pretty cool gym, actually. It's a very membership gym. You're organic. You know, Pilates, tennis, swim team, whatever. I mean, they have everything that you could think of. But they, when I started going there, I was very uncomfortable. I was like, man, these are a lot of juice heads here. Like, you know, like
Right.
big dudes,
Right.
you know. But there was one guy that actually like saw me, and he was just like, you have so much potential. And that's the first thing he said to me, like
Wow.
out of anything. And I was like, okay. Like, you know, I'm just like nervous about everything.
Right.
And you know, he told me like, "What's your favorite workout?" And I was like, you know, I like doing legs, you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was not small, but I mean, I was in good shape. And I was sending you a picture, like, you know, this storyline. And his name is Neff, and he goes by Neff the Mexican on
Wow.
on Instagram.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and at the time I had this man bun, you know, and like, you know, I was playing, you know.
Do you still follow him?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's
like,
amazing.
yeah, and he like sometimes he like sends me messages and goes, "I'm so proud of you." Like, you
Wow.
know, like in my head I'm thinking, but you were right though. Like, you know,
Right.
he's the one that like put that in me and was like, "You have so much potential," and was just
Wow.
like, you know, you could do this, do that, and like
Wow.
basically he always told me little by little, poquito poquito. That's what he would say all the time, like little by little.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing that, you know, little by little. And then, I mean, and now it's just
Here you are.
yeah, spreading his word little by little.
That's so funny because, well, it's not funny, but it's so impactful that somebody, it takes one person, right? When you're in the depths of not believing in yourself, it takes one person to come into your life
Yeah,
and just
change
say
it.
those words. I believe in you and you have potential.
Yeah,
Like, you don't understand how powerful that
Yeah.
is to somebody that
Right.
does not believe in themselves.
right.
Right? And so when you understand the power of words and you understand that power that you can give somebody, man, it's like that is a responsibility, dude, because like somebody gave it to you, you got to give it to somebody else,
Right.
man. And I see you in the gym doing it all the
Thanks,
time
bro.
too.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely. Man, I wish I still had I don't know anything about my gym guy, bro. Like I've tried to like somehow find I don't even remember his name, dude.
Yeah.
He's like I said, he's just a legend in my mind.
Yeah, I mean that's still cool
Yeah.
though, you know. And like the same thing, Neff is a bodybuilder. And,
Yeah.
like, you know, he was like same thing. Like he would wear like you know the hoodies and like you know the track pants. So you wouldn't be able to tell, but you know once he like takes pictures and stuff, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
this dude's huge.
Right.
But like the fact that he saw me out of all people,
Right.
out of everyone in that gym, and he saw me like that.
Yeah.
That hit me, like you know, and,
Right,
like, that
absolutely.
was like, holy cow! This guy like saw me and like basically gave me a word of like keep pushing. So I mean that. So back on the advice, you know, one, don't get discouraged because you don't see results, but
Right.
because in mental we're not going to see. It's
Right.
the other people that are going to see.
Right.
But I encourage the people that are at the gym to encourage others to keep going.
Right. If you know what you're doing and you've been in the gym, encourage others. And also, if you don't know what you're doing, don't be afraid to ask for help either.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
I think
true.
a lot of times that's the other thing that stops us is we're not willing to be submissive, or we feel like we might be judged by another person. But you don't realize that more likely than not, those kind of people will always be willing to help you.
Right.
Because that makes them also feel good.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that somebody's coming to them.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, can you help me with what you're doing? I love your physique.
Very true.
Boom. Of course. Like, what would you say no? That
Yeah.
person's giving you a compliment. So, in the process of your transformation, how did that, because when you go from being, this person who, let's say, was insecure, not confident in himself, and you go to somebody that's confident, believes in themselves, how did that transform your relationships in life?
I would definitely say for my relationships, as in like friends, or relationship as in
Let's do friends.
Okay.
Yeah, friends.
So with my friends, I would definitely say that all my friends work out.
Mm-hmm.
So like we all go to the gym. We're all like motivated. We're all mentally. Some of us, have issues. Everyone has issues,
right.
Like me. But I definitely say that I have a very strong team on my side. So like I try to like stick around people that are also just as motivated and gym oriented as me as well.
Mm-hmm. So
what about you? Like changing your lifestyle, like how did it?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. So when I moved to Tampa to me was gonna be a fresh start. It was me moving out of a small town where, like you, everybody knows each other. Everybody knows the drama, and it's not necessarily when you're from a small town or when you've lived in a place your entire life. It people stay there, right? I think a lot of times people are scared to like go into the unknown, and we get comfortable where we're at. So when I moved to Tampa, I was in the process of like just really into like self-development and transforming myself and getting away from that environment that shaped me in a way, because I think a lot of times in order for you to change yourself, you have to get away from where you're at. You have to get a change of environment. And so I still talk to a lot of my old buddies from high school, but you realize that as you mature and you grow up, that not everybody wants to go where you want to go, and not everybody's going to have the same core values as you. Mm-hmm. And so that might separate some of your relationships, and that definitely was my case. Like I think when you're in high school and you're young, you're not really asking yourself, did this person have the same core values as me, and do we believe in the same thing? I think you're just hanging out with somebody because it's fun and it's something to do. But as I've matured, I've come to realize that the most important thing that you can do is surround yourself with people that have the same values as you, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because they hold you accountable. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm a lazy person at heart. And I've realized that the only thing that really helps me stay on track and be accountable is holding myself accountable to other people. So like even obviously you and I and the rest of our friends, we go to church, but it probably would be a lot harder for me to stay on that track if I wasn't holding myself accountable to somebody else. Right. Even in the gym as well. And that's always a jump start for me.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Like me, me relating to your story. Mm-hmm. So my friends from high school are completely different from my friends now.
Right.
So like when I was in high school, I was a lot bigger. I was, over the 184 that I was, that I lost. Mm-hmm. So the original body. But I honestly, I only talked to like 3 people from my high school. Mm-hmm. And I would say that I wasn't like, the big shot, but I had a good solid friend that I thought like, I had really good friends in school that I would talk to. I was part of like a, chorus and all that drama and thespian. So
chorus.
Yeah.
You're a singer?
Men's chorus.
There you
acapella.
Go. Play, you hit some deep notes.
Yeah, I can hit some deep and high. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, but
there you go.
Relating that message and seeing people from your high school and their lifestyles, mm-hmm. and it's pretty cool because like you get to see, because like you're like, wow, that person is completely different, or that person just switched roles, and then but yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah, and it you know as time goes by, it is kind of weird seeing people that you used to hang out with and the trajectory of where life takes you based on your decisions and what it is that you value, right?
Yeah. And like you have like your solid team that you know you
Mm-hmm.
hang out with every day, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have your core team.
Mm-hmm.
And my core team is mainly in Kansas. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that I have, you know, one of my really good friends, my best friend, my brother
Mm-hmm.
Connor,
Mm-hmm.
and then his wife Judy and their
Mm-hmm.
two kids. I won't
Shout
say
out to
that.
Connor and Judy.
Yeah, they are literally my soul,
Yeah,
and like they have built me up so many times and held me accountable. They're the
yeah.
type of friends that I have that are like, I'm gonna check you, and this is what you're doing wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how you're gonna fix it, and I want
Mm-hmm.
to see you fix it. And they remind me of my family so much to where it's like you're a part of my family. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we check in when we can, birthdays, Christmas, holidays, whatever. And you know, they know that, you know, I'm there for them whenever
Mm-hmm.
they call, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So um, yeah.
What makes a? I mean, you've kind of described it in that sentence, but what makes a good core team?
Someone that's going to hold you accountable for sure. And then, you know, someone that also doesn't just take the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people that are on my core team
Mm-hmm.
don't have a spotlight. We all
Mm-hmm.
share one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And someone that will go out of their way to. So, this is an example of what I love. And I do this too, as well. So, I'm going to the store and I'm shopping for a whole bunch of stuff. And I know that my best friend Connor lives around the corner from the store. I would call Connor and be like, "Hey, do you need anything from the store?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "I'm at the store. I don't know if you need anything." And he'd be like, "No." Vice versa. If he's in my side of the town and he's like, "Hey, like I'm at GNC. Do you need anything at a GNC?" And I'm like, "No, like not at all." It's the thought of the process that you thought of me when you get what I'm trying to say.
Right,
Like,
when
you
you
know,
don't have to,
yeah,
right? And
like
they're
it's
looking out
like
for you and they've got your
yeah.
back.
And also they're like that in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like that when it comes to, you know, meeting people, like relationships. Like you know, they're like, "Hey, I have this friend named Zach, like you should like
Mm-hmm.
meet him. Like I think that you two would be perfect." You know, they're always
Right.
trying to set Connor and Judy are always trying to set me up with people, but they, you know, they're like, "You know, you should always like meet up. You should meet up with this person. Like he's, you
Mm-hmm.
know, he's cool as this, blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, I'll meet up with them and like hang out with them, and you know, they're actually really cool, and you know, but they're always thinking of their their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And like I love people like that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love people that are always thinking of their friends.
That are thinking outside of themselves,
Yeah.
right? Because I think a lot of times people in life, we walk this road of just what's in it for me,
Yeah.
right? And what's in it for me in this relationship? What's in it for me if I go to this place? What's in it for me, you know, with everything that I do? And I think that's such a, you know, to each his own. But I've been that person too. But when the best thing that you can do in life, and the process of healing also involves you thinking about other people, right? And when you're able to think about other people and you're no longer thinking about what's in it for me, I think a lot of times that suffering that we inflict on ourselves kind of winds down. But yeah, those are important people to absolutely have in your
Yeah.
life at all times.
For sure.
What's
And I feel like I always meet I'm always meeting people that are very what how can I say this?
self-centered?
Yeah, self-centered, and also like people that are always like, I don't care what I can do for you. I need what you can do for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, and I've always been that guy that's always
Mm-hmm.
doing it. And like
Mm-hmm.
I always go out of my way for people, or I always go out of my way for like anything.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's never the other way around sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's why Connor and Judy, I speak very highly of them, because
Mm-hmm.
like they've never done that to me. They've never been the people that have been like, you know, I need favors, blah 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 blah. And like even though they have kids, and like, you know, I would watch them like in a heartbeat, they never ask. And it's like, or if they want to go out or something like that, they're like, "Oh, we have kids," and I'm like, "Well, bring them." Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, and
Right.
it's like they never like want to,
Make an excuse.
yeah. And it's like there's always, I mean, I'm always meeting people that are like that. Like I
Yeah.
always have to do something for them
Yeah.
to be a friend of
Yeah.
them. Like you know what I mean? Like I have to do something for a friend to be a friend. And it's like
Super powerful right there.
yeah, and it's like why do I have to do something for you to be
Right.
my friend?
Right.
Like
right,
you know, and it's
right.
always like it's always a favor. It's always an ask. It's always something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what's the point? You know?
How have you found that? What are the importance of boundaries in relationships since we're on that topic?
I'm still working on them.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I'm not perfect.
Right.
My hardest thing is saying no. And I don't know where I get it from. My family teases me about it all the time. I don't know. Maybe it goes back to, you know, not being seen and, you know, doing all that stuff. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know why the no can never come out of my mouth. But I'm learning, and I'm learning to say no to people. And I feel like, you know, me getting taken advantage of is going to be coming to an end pretty soon. So,
No, that's important
Coming
because
soon.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that, you know, the term people pleaser, where it's you want to keep everybody around you happy,
Yeah.
right? And you want to make sure that everybody else is good. But I think a lot of times in that position, you're not taking care of yourself, and eventually that catches up to you, right? Because I think not saying no also says no to you.
Yeah.
Right? Is if you're saying not, if you don't learn how to say to no other people, you're learning how to not say no to you. And in this life, in order to be the best version of yourself, in order to be of value to other people as much as you can, which is what we should strive to do, right? Is improve other people and make other people around us better. It first starts with making yourself better, right? If you don't have the energy and the mental capacity, the emotional and the spiritual energy to be able to help other people and fill their cup, then you're never going to be able to do it from an empty cup, you know, and that'll drain you and that'll leave you feeling exhausted and tired. And not only that, but not saying no to other people also builds a sort of resentment and a sort of rage within yourself that eventually that energy needs to be able to get out in some way or shape or form. And I think a lot of times, and you don't want to let it get to a point where it's like a spigot on a hose where it just unleashes, you know?
Yeah. And like I said, like we're all learning,
Right?
You know, and friendships is hard because like you said, like you want to make everybody happy, and unfortunately I am a people pleaser. So like I want to make everyone happy. I want to say yes to everyone. I want everyone to feel comfortable. Like, you know, I've made some sacrifices for myself. Like, you know, I've had, you know, I've given up, you know, times for, you know, my birthdays or like, you know, times for 4th of July. So it's like, I mean, I totally get that.
Do you think that a lot of that is from maybe when you transform yourself, right? I think a lot of times we transform our bodies, but sometimes we don't we don't look at the operating system that we go out into the world in, right? So when you're coming from, at least for me, when you're operating from a place of trauma and insecurity, some of those can be a benefit because it'll help you get out of that environment. But at the same time, when you get to a new environment, you're no longer in that threat. It's hard to let go of those familiar operating systems in which we, you know, handle our life, right?
Right.
If you're in a place that's highly stressful, you go to a place that's no longer stressful, and you're still acting out in that fashion. I think a lot of times it's hard to kind of move forward. Do you think that maybe the feeling and the need to not say no to other people might be because maybe from a place of where you know what it's like to be lonely and not maybe have friends, or I'm not really, you know, like trying.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's where it comes from? Because you don't want other people to feel what you felt.
Right. And I feel like people that have been told no, like, are, I don't know, I can't really put my, like, I can't really speak it. I just can think it, but I can't, like, speak it. Like, you know, yeah, I mean that's
When
a
you say
very
people that have been told no, in what context? What do you mean?
like okay, so when you have like this friend
Mm-hmm.
and they're asking you to um, do something for them,
Mm-hmm.
and they say you say no, and then they make you feel guilty for saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have going on? You have nothing going on,
Mm-hmm.
and like they basically like get mad at you for saying no.
What do you feel guilty about?
Honestly, I mean, I guess having no one I mean, if someone's trying to go out and like
Mm-hmm.
they're basically saying like, hey, this is the reason why I need you to do this for me,
Mm-hmm.
and if I was to say no, they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know I feel guilty by saying no, because and then their plans get ruined,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a whole bigger thing, and then like they're the reason, I'm the reason that their plans fell through,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that's I mean it's pretty that's
You put that responsibility on your
I do
shoulders.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like if I was to say yes,
Mm-hmm.
then they can do what they need to do. But if I'm to say no, then they don't have the opportunity to go do what they want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm the reason why that they can't go out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they find someone else. But if I'm the only resort, then no.
And back to that question, do you think that has to do with maybe when you were younger? Where maybe you felt lonely and you didn't have a lot of friends, if there was ever a time like that in your life?
I will say like in my family, I first I want to say like I came, my family's awesome.
Yeah.
But I definitely I felt like I wasn't seen in
Mm-hmm.
my family. I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
My family's mottos is TNT, today not tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I grew up with my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And then, growing up with, the first impression is always the impression,
Mm-hmm.
which is true. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like you're
Right.
the first person you meet is always the impression that you should always have throughout your friendship. So the first impression that I met of Judy and Connor are the same exact people that I know today. And there's so many people that I have met, when I first moved here, that are no longer the same person that I met, because they were just, like I said earlier, like they wanted favors for me to be their friend. And then, even though I was like on here at 8 o'clock, but it is funny because like, my uncle, if you're on time, you're late, but if you're early, you're on time. So like it's like those things I always had to live up to, and those values. And I, always felt like I wasn't good enough to live up to those values in
Mm-hmm.
my family. And then, always, as long as you're working for someone, you're always going to be broke.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like those, all of those messages that I just said are very deep and super strong. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to live up to those in my
Mm-hmm.
family. And like I said, sometimes I just felt like I wasn't good enough to be a part of my family. I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was very weak.
You're
Like,
trying to play catch up.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
I
it
felt
sounds.
like my families were very ahead of me. And it was a lot of comparing and contrasting when it came to my family.
Mm,
And I felt like I just wasn't good enough.
yeah.
And maybe that's where it comes from,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds like the environment that you were in and that you grew up in. It seems like you had high expectations that were almost unattainable in a sense, right? Especially as a young kid.
Yeah.
Um, is there anybody in your mind that you can think of that you were compared to specifically?
Yeah, it was my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was basically like, well, he's still here, but my uncle is like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically took that farther. I'm getting emotional about it, but he basically took that father role for me. And
And before we get into the conversation, I will say that I appreciate your vulnerability and I
yeah, thanks,
appreciate the fact
man.
that you're willing to share this because obviously in this room it's just you and I, but on the other side of the camera and the people that are going to be hearing this, there are people that need to hear your story and that need to hear this message, right? And it's something powerful. So I just wanted to say that. I want to say thank you
Yeah,
and
I'll
honor
take a
that.
second though. I'm gonna take a
No, it's
second.
okay. It's all good. Listen, man, these things in life are hard, right? We can, like I said, we can be willing to accomplish any, like we can put on this suit. You put on the Superman suit every morning when you wake up, right? You're Batman, you're Spider-Man, you're this superhero in life.
Yeah.
But we all have those weaknesses. I don't want to say weaknesses because it's not a weakness, it's a strength. But it's the fact that we're allowing that to kind of have almost a reign over us and control us, and those things are so important to share, man. And I'm honoring it because, like I said, there are people that don't find the courage in life to be able to share these things, and unknowingly those things weigh them down. And I think you and I can both agree that a lot of people in life don't reach their potential. And I don't know if you're like me, but that's always been my fear, is not being able to reach my full potential. That's always scared me. It's to be a product of my environment. That's why I had to change. That's why I had to get away from where I was. That's why I had to change my friends, right? Because I'm scared, man. Like, a lot of times throughout the day, dude, when I'm operating and I'm thinking, I'm always thinking in the sense that one day I'm going to be 60, 70 years old, God willing. And I don't want to look back on my life and have any regrets, right? Because time is, at the end of the day, bro, time is all you have.
Yeah.
You can't take your car. You can't take your home. You can't take your job. You can't take your friends. You can't take your accomplishments. The only thing you're going to take are the experiences that you had with people, with yourself, the things you do on this earth, right? And I have to, when I'm operating, I always think in those terms. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be old one day, and I'm going to have my grandchildren with me, and, like, I want to make sure that and obviously I'm not perfect by any sense of the means, but I always think about that all the time, dude. All the time. Just, that scares me. That's always been a fear of mine, is not reaching my potential, man.
Yeah.
And just being a statistic from how I grew up, like not growing up without a mom or a dad. I'm like, statistically, those people don't do very well in life, and let alone two parents. Like, one parent alone, but let alone two parents. Like, statistically, you're not supposed to do very well according to the numbers, right? And so I think it's important to share these kind of stories with people, because there are people that are in that same walk, and that's what makes your story so powerful, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what makes you that, like, kind of like that warrior in life, is the fact that, hey, you know what? This is who I am at my core. This is what made me me.
Yeah.
So, and we are back. Episode 2 of the Do It Now podcast with Zaqq Hernandez. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. Stay tuned. Follow Miss Juan.
Miss Juan de la Rosa.
De la Rosa.
I will say, though, that with the group of friends that I've had, and I've told you this, I'm like, this is the first time in my life that I'm the oldest. How old are you?
I am 27.
Okay, yeah, it's the first time that I am the youngest in my friend group, because I've always been the oldest, except, funny enough, Carlos is younger than me. I think he's like 24, dude.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
it is.
He's got that old soul.
Yeah, he does.
He's been through a lot.
He does have an old soul. Yeah, he's very, like,
dude. We got
that one time at the Waffle House when he was talking.
Yeah,
I was like,
dude, I should get Carlos to narrate, like, my intro.
Yeah,
right. That'd be amazing, right?
Yeah, man, that'd be cool. He's
welcome to the Do It Now.
Yeah, he'd be like Puss in Boots.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
He'd be like, this is
absolutely. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
I sometimes wish I had a Spanish accent like that.
Same.
I'm like, damn, I just don't have it.
So. I'm gonna have to be around him for like a month or two.
Yeah. So, if you're okay, let's hop back into our conversation.
Yeah.
The question that I asked you was, obviously you grew up in an environment where you had high expectations, and I think there are a lot of people that can relate to your story in that sense. Expectations that sometimes are unrealistic in a sense, because nobody can be perfect or reach perfection. And when you have those expectations and you're operating from those expectations, you might have a mindset of, I'm not good enough, or I'm never doing good enough, and I think the effect of that is that it can cause you to burn out.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just constantly in go mode, and I think it's hard for people like that, and I know it is for me to chill out and take some self care and not do anything. Is it hard for you to not do anything?
Yeah. Like
Just
I
kind of
always have to do something.
yeah.
And like I'm pretty sure like, like if you ask anyone, they're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
he's never home."
Yeah.
Like I'm never I'm never at home. Like I'm always like, out like, either like the gym or
Hmm.
like, doing stuff like this or like
Hmm.
doing other collabs. Like I'm always doing something. Like I can never like just not do anything. But that's also like, what I saw in my household and not just
Hmm.
from the men, but from the
Hmm.
women as well. Like,
Hmm.
we were equals. Like we all, were doing something. So, um, yeah, I definitely had that as, and I think that's a trait that was actually like created in me, like through like birth. Like
Hmm.
I always had to like do something. So it
Hmm.
was like,
You came out the womb. They're like, "All right, baby, get to work.
yeah, literally. Start doing
Start sucking
taxes.
some titty.
Yeah,
Drink some milk."
yeah, literally. So yeah, I definitely always have to do something for
Yeah.
sure.
Now the question that I asked you, was there anybody specifically that that people compared you to when you were younger?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was my uncle.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say his name because like he doesn't.
Just call
he,
him Unc.
yeah. He's a private guy. He doesn't
Yeah.
really like his stuff out there.
Yeah.
But I definitely will say, um, growing up with him and trying to be like him was the hardest thing for me. And this guy, I mean, my uncle was this big, like he's bodybuilder, like NFL. Every time we go somewhere, everyone thinks that he plays for the NFL.
Wow.
That's how big he is. He's
Mm.
6'7", like huge dude, like, muscle dude, like you cannot miss him.
Mm.
And ever since I was little, I always looked up to him as like not like a god or anything, but like someone that is always going to be there for me. And I knew that he was always going to be there for me. And the older I got, he started like teaching me how to drive, teaching me about like, certain things about like, money and, and I will say that it was also my grandfather too, the one, that owns, or owned my family's business.
Is that his dad?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was my uncle's dad.
And this is your mom's brother?
Correct.
Okay.
And growing up with those two, individuals in my life and so I had two uncles and I also had my grandfather. And all three of them had a huge part of me growing up. But I would definitely say all three different men had three different responsibilities in my life.
Mm.
And I felt like my grandfather was trying to prepare me for my future when I'm like his age. And my uncle, the one that I like looked up to the most, was preparing me for my lifestyle and my manhood. And I felt like my other uncle, was preparing me for, present and watching out for people.
Mm.
And I felt like I
Wow.
have learned so much from all three of them.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's
And
powerful.
it was definitely a brotherhood of us for sure. And I think what the wake up call was for me was losing my grandfather. And
How old are you?
I was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was what, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're 27. I'm sorry, 6.
And it was so hard because like you basically lost a father, you know. But I had, two
Right.
other fathers that, but losing my grandfather was the hardest because it was someone that I never thought that would leave. And there was a whole shift in my family that
Hmm.
changed.
When he passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This was when you were back in Kansas.
yeah.
Right.
Ooh, dog. You got me out here. But
No, I appreciate you sharing this
Yeah,
stuff,
thanks,
bro.
man.
I really do.
thanks, man. If you're crying on the camera, bro.
No, it's not crying,
But no,
dude. Trust me, there's on the other side of your message, bro, there's people that are waiting for you to share this stuff.
I
And this stuff's hard.
it is very
It
hard.
is very hard
It's
to share.
very,
It is very hard to
emotional.
share.
But because Because this is also a side that I don't ever
No,
show.
it's
So
all
it's
good,
like,
bro. But
it's beautiful at the same time.
this is
Yeah.
who you are, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times from a lot of times you have this ideal version of yourself who you think you have to be, and you judge yourself against. And obviously, I don't know the whole story, but it sounds like your uncle, the person that you looked up to, a lot of times maybe as a little kid you don't feel like this person isn't valuable, that has any weakness, that's always strong.
Yeah.
And so you feel as a man that you have to be the same way and you have to operate from that system.
Right.
But you also have to be able to look behind the door, right? Because when you're a little kid, you're not thinking about those things. You're only thinking in a one dimensional, but you don't realize. And the thing is like when you, as you grow up and you're into an adult, you're still thinking in that one dimensional mode, right?
Right.
Where it's like, this, I'm not supposed to have these weaknesses. I'm not supposed to cry. And
Yeah.
you don't understand that. That maybe behind closed doors, man, like he probably felt the same way. Like maybe
Yeah.
he wanted to let these things out.
Right.
But, this is where generational trauma comes in. And not saying that your grandpa was somebody that was, that was traumatic towards you guys, but maybe in the era that he grew up in, that's how he had to operate. Maybe he had to go through hardships and tough times in order to get the family, started and going and keep
Yeah.
everybody healthy and fed. And
Right.
that's a dude, as a man, that is a responsibility that people don't know how heavy that is on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Man, it is tough.
And like not really like looking at it, back then, but now I remember like, my grandfather was doing a lot, like, with family reunions and like, meetings and doing all these, interviews and stuff like that. Like me being in that moment, like, at 15, 16, 17, I wasn't really like taking it all in. And then later on in life, after I started like, getting older, I was like, oh my God, my grandfather's doing a lot. Like, like he's doing so much and like trying to take care of the family and take care of him. And unfortunately, he did pass away. And like I said, there was a whole shift in my family, because it was like this huge, it was like a pride, like a lion pride, and like, the big kahuna just like passed.
Mufasa.
Yeah, literally. And it was the hardest thing that we had to deal with. It still is to this day. And like I said, our family has not been the same since he has passed away.
He was with the rock.
Yeah.
Of the family.
And he
kind of kept the glue.
Exactly. Yeah, like, our family reunions are no longer, we don't even do them anymore. So like me noticing that, after you were just talking about that responsibilities, it started flooding back in my head. Like, yeah, he was doing a lot. And, now that my uncle is in this place of where my grandfather was, it is harder to be more like him now because it's, hold on, how can I say this? Growing up with my uncles, I tried to, like I said, I wanted to be them. And I wanted to strive to be them. I wanted their life. I wanted everything that they had because
people respected them.
Yeah. And, when they go somewhere, like, it's like, well, one, Kansas is a small town, but still, it still gets in your head like, wow, like, that's an awesome feeling to, like, have that. But also giving back as well. Like, it's not just, like, one trait, but it's also the other.
Right.
So it's like my uncles were like the full package.
They were that balance. They were that guy that they were dangerous.
Yeah.
Right. That could cause harm, but they chose to also. They were what's the word? Moral. But there's another word that specifically I'm looking for. Virtuous. Right.
Yeah.
Very virtuous people, because even though he was this big, strong, macho guy, he was still very kind and gentle.
Right.
And he was still willing to help other people, build other people up. Is that right?
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
And the same thing with my grandfather. Like, he was, like, in, the subtitle, like, he was the gentle giant.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone is tall. Every guy is tall in my family but me. But it's so funny. But that was my core. Like, growing up, like, as, in the family, was trying to be like my uncles and my grandfather and preparing myself for life. And I think that's why I'm the guy I am today. I honestly think I am who I am because of my uncles and my grandfather.
Yeah.
And my mom had a huge part of that
Right.
too. Like around that,
Shout out to mom.
yeah, shout out to my mom. But I would definitely say like my uncles and
Yeah.
my grandfather literally took me in and made sure that I would have, like I said, a
Yeah.
future, a
Yeah.
present, and also
That is amazing. The fact that you're able to separate that, because that is, when you're, yeah, when you're short on time, and you get towards the end of your life or you get older, you become a lot more aware of time,
yeah,
right? And you value it a lot more.
right,
And it sounds like your uncle is the person that was preparing you for life or what it was going to throw at you, right?
Yeah.
He was that steely man that was, this is how you got to operate in the world. And your other uncle was kind of like the heart, in the sense of like, take it in,
yeah,
just be present in the moment,
right.
So it was
Don't take everything so
a great,
serious. Yeah, like
great
he would always tell
combination
me
of it
that.
all.
Yeah, he would
Like
always
that's a great balance.
hmm
You've used the terms pride, lion pride, quite a few times now. Um, do you ever feel, and I know you said that everybody in your family is taller than you, and you felt like you've had to play catch up, and you have these expectations. Is there a time? Have you ever felt like you weren't a lion in the lion pride?
Yeah.
Like you were, I don't know, something else.
Like
You're just like this is a whole lot of prides, but you're like, I'm not a lion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mean my mom would tell you, I mean not like you're talking about,
Yeah.
but my mom would say like, Lion King was my favorite movie watching,
Yeah.
like when I was little.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, this is like me.
Yeah.
Like, like I'm literally Simba.
Yeah.
Like, trying to, put my paws in someone else's footsteps that when he created this masterpiece.
Mhm.
And it's like you have like this huge like responsibility trying to be like this person. You can look like the person, but you can't be like that person.
Mhm.
And I definitely felt when he like ran away. And I felt like, and still to this day, like, because it, got remastered and now it's a live action movie, So I went to go see it and I just was just bawling because, like, him running away and, because that's how I felt. I felt like me coming, to Florida and like me, doing other things was running away instead of going back and saying, hey, like, this is how I felt. And like, like I said, I still haven't, told my family how I felt, like, so it's something that, definitely should happen. But
No, and I think that's where healing takes place, man. You don't understand how much emotional pain there is within families, and how much is so unspoken, and that's how much is so pushed under the rugs,
yeah,
right? And it's sad to see that so many families are broken apart like that, and a lot of that has to do with the aspect of communication, our interpersonal communication skills. And when one person is unwilling to communicate and share their emotions, it makes other people unwilling to do the same thing, because it's not going to be reciprocated in the same manner. But when it takes one person to bring everybody together, and it
Right.
sounds like your grandfather was that kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now, yeah.
So, if you're willing to share, you were raised by these three great men in your life. Where was your biological father?
Yeah, so I knew
What
of
was
like
that? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. What was that like? Like,
so my dad was not fully present in my life. Um but I definitely got to know my dad, like actually knowing my dad after my 21st birthday. And
Was this? I'm sorry. Was this after or before your grandfather passed away?
this is after.
Okay.
Yeah, this is after like my grandfather passed away. So I just wanted to be open and I was like, I'm just gonna, just do it. And I ended up really liking my dad. Like, I was like, as I say, I fell in love with my dad.
Mhm.
And then, my dad unfortunately passed away as well, from a heart attack too, which was 2 years now. Um, so it's just crazy. I just kept meeting people and like meeting men in my family, and they just like unfortunately kept passing away. But
Mhm.
like,
Did your grandfather passing away have anything to do with you reaching out and building a relationship with your father?
I think losing my grandfather made me feel like I lost something else and I needed another hole to fill in, I
Mm.
think. But
Mm.
and hopefully that doesn't come off
No,
the
no,
wrong way,
no,
but
no, yeah.
I wanted to be more open to get to know my dad
Mm.
because I didn't really have a full solid chance.
Mm.
So the time that, like I said, the time that I had with my dad was amazing.
Mm.
Like I said, I fell in love with my dad. He was awesome. He was great.
Mm.
But at the same time, my uncles and my grandfather were pretty much my dad.
Mm.
And that's what I grew up with. But the reasoning on why I wanted to get to know my dad is because I just felt a drive to,
Mm.
and maybe that was God telling me to,
Mm.
because, like, unfortunately, like I said, he did pass away.
Mm.
Um, so yeah.
And your father was in your life through, you said he was in and out, or you just had no recollection of him when you were younger?
So there's bits and pieces, like, when I was younger, he was there, and then there's times when, he would like send stuff like in the mail.
Mm.
But for the most part, no.
What was that like reconnecting back with him when you were 21? Was it
Um,
strange? Was it
yeah,
weird?
it was very weird at first,
Yeah.
like, like actually willing to want to put full effort into it.
Mm.
It was weird. Just because what I grew up with, was completely opposite
Mm.
from what my dad is, basically. So it just
Mm.
was very hard for me to not adjust,
But
but
balance that.
yeah, like balancing, and then, getting not judged, but um we can say judge. I was basically,
Sure.
my family was questioning why I wanted to do it so much.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know what it was. I just felt like I had a purpose to do it, and a pull and a drive.
Right.
And like I said, unfortunately, he did pass away.
Yeah.
So,
Was it judgment coming from your mother specifically or your uncle? Was there someone specific that you
definitely on
can?
my mom's side of the family
Yeah.
in general.
Okay.
And it wasn't just like my uncles or my mom or my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother. It was a lot of members in my
Mm-hmm.
family, cousins included,
Mm-hmm.
even cousins on my, dad's side as well. So
Because
yeah.
he wasn't. They were saying he wasn't a good person, a good man. They were looking
I
out for you.
yeah, I think that it was just a lot of um, well, one, when you're in a family, like, you have like those family members that are just trying to look out for the best of
Right.
you, especially if they had a huge part in your life.
Right.
But I, definitely will say that they just felt like they just wanted to speak, their minds,
Mm-hmm.
and I took it in
Yeah, you gotta
consideration. But
respect that.
yeah, I took it in
Right.
consideration, but, respectfully, I
Mm-hmm.
declined it, and like I said, I wanted to get to know my father personally. So,
Mm.
um, yeah.
Do you have any regrets of? You don't have any regrets of obviously doing that.
No.
No.
No, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Okay.
Like I said, I had a really good time with my dad that I
Yeah.
met, and he was great.
When he passed away, how did that affect you, losing two men that were so important to you in your life?
I mean, it was back to back. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Because we were
prior,
21, right?
yeah.
Both, yeah,
So
that
like,
same year.
yeah,
Wow.
it was literally, so like it was my grandfather that passed away,
Mm.
and then, a few months after that, it was my uncle Jim that passed away, which was my dad's brother.
Wow.
And then,
Was he one of the three that you mentioned earlier?
no,
A different
no.
uncle, okay.
Yeah, that was my dad's brother.
Right. We're forgetting we're Hispanic here.
Yeah, they be popping out. And then, my dad, passed away,
Mm.
a few years after that. So it just felt like it was just like I was like getting cursed or something. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what it was. But yeah, family is like, like I said, it's very strong. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many families out there that, sometimes you have a really good solid family from, you have your dad and your mom. And then you have, unfortunately, you have some that have just the mom, but then you have the brothers that are like the dad and like they
Right.
protect you and
That
guide
take on
you.
that role, that
Yeah,
take on that responsibility or that
exactly.
role.
And then sometimes you have just the dad, and sometimes it's the women of the family that take
Mm.
over and help you out. And I definitely had a good solid, when it came to respecting women for sure. Like I said, things that I saw, like, when I was younger with my parents, I definitely had a sympathy for women for sure because my mom is like everything to me for one. And I definitely had, her mom, which was my grandmother, that helped me. And then I also had my grandma's mom as well
Wow.
that was there for me as well. So and my dad's mom was there too. I got
Mm-hmm.
to know her and like,
Mm-hmm.
I've always like, known her.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped me as much as she could too, but having a solid foundation was definitely um, something that I grew up with.
Yeah. Was there ever a time that you felt a victim to your life, like not having a father?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember going to school and like they would have because like June, unfortunately, June's my birthday,
Mm.
and then you also have Father's Day that follows under June. But like sometimes in school they would like have like Dad's Day because like
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't go to school and like summer.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have all these dads here, and I would have like it was cool. Like I had three, but like I had my uncle,
Right.
I had both my uncles, and then I would
Right.
have my grandfather like come
Yeah.
up to the schools and
Yeah.
like eat lunch with me and like
Yeah.
do all that.
Yeah.
So technically, I kind of like won,
Right.
but it was different.
Right, because as a
Yeah.
kid, you don't understand that, right? You
Right.
don't understand those dynamics, and
Yeah.
when you grow up and you mature and you look back at it, and you're like, dude, that's probably the best thing ever, right? You're
Yeah.
super appreciative for that,
Yeah.
right?
And like in that moment, I was like thinking like, yeah, I have like three guys here,
Right,
like as my dad, but my real dad's actually
right.
like,
And I think that's just part of human nature as being a kid, is because you're so focused on what you don't have, and as you mature and you grow in experience and wisdom, you realize that you had everything that you needed, right?
yeah,
And that's also spiritual, right? Because if you believe in God, you realize that God always took care of you, man.
for sure.
Even when you felt like He didn't, He was always there and had a hand in the play. And that's, I
Right.
mean, I can relate to that 100% because, I grew up without both my parents, and that was me my entire childhood, man. I don't have my mom or dad. I was a band geek in middle school and high school, and every time I had like concerts or shows, like nobody really showed up. It was just kind of like everybody else's parents are there, and it's just awkward to have to explain to people why nobody's there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nobody, like, where your parents? That I used to hate that. I used to hate having to explain that to people. It was just the most. It was awkward, and I've never wanted sympathy from people. And as a kid, you don't want to seem like you're different. You don't want to seem like you're excluded,
Right.
right? Because you're just in comparison to everybody else. And so I definitely relate to that 100%. But I've also realized that also made me tougher, made me resilient, and allowed me to learn how to be on my own, which
Yeah.
is something that a lot of people don't know how to do. They constantly need somebody there for that emotional support all the time,
Yeah. And I can
right?
definitely tell that. And I said that like from day one that I met you. I was like, man,
Mm,
you are so like there, like in the moment. Like you actually like see people. And then you know what I mean? Like you actually can like feel people's emotions. And that's rare.
dude,
People cannot do
yeah,
that. People cannot like and like there's people out there that
yeah,
can,
yeah,
but there's some people that literally just like
yeah,
they're just so
yeah,
like buzzed out. But
yeah,
like you actually like pay attention and you actually listen and you actually like care for
yeah.
people's emotions and I just want to speak highly on that
No,
because like that is like amazing and
yeah,
like I said I said that since like day one like
yeah,
at the gym like
yeah.
when you said the same thing to me like I was like no like I see it out of you like
Mhm.
like you're just a really cool dude and
I appreciate that a lot. And I can relate to you too, in the sense that I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to feel, for me, I know what it's like to feel insecure. I know what it's like to not believe in yourself. I know
yeah.
what it's like to feel like you don't have anybody, even though you do. When I look back at my life, I do. But I know what that feeling is like.
Mm.
You know, I know what it's like to sit in the corner. I know what it's like to be in your own room and cry when you're a little kid because you
Yeah.
don't have your parents and you don't understand why. I know what it's like to question your value because why did my mom leave me when I was a kid? Like, that was me, man. That was me. Like, so when I see people that I appreciate that because there's always a battle in my mind of whether I'm good or bad. You know, like I know I have a good heart, but there's just always that like, you know, those like, that little voice in your head that still, you know, is there speaking those things to you like you're not good, you're a bad person, like
Yeah.
this is where you fucked up. You know, just putting the magnifying glass on all the bad things that you don't do. And you know, I've definitely had to and still work on a lot to overcome that, and that's why I read all the books that I read and try to help as many people that I can. And yeah, that's the thing that I will say for anybody that is out there and feeling depressed and that feels like they're suffering. The worst thing that you can do is retreat into your own world because we're human beings and we are we need other people. You can't be human alone, right? You need other people to communicate with. And I will say that it is so important to be able to have friendships like this where you can have conversations like this, like you
Yeah.
can go into depth on things that are heavy on your heart and traumatic experiences. Because I'm telling you guys, for if you have friends that all you do is go out and you drink and you party and you're going to the bar and you're not seeking a spiritual life and
Yeah.
like just improving yourself altogether, bro, I'm like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, run the other way.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't know what a real friend is.
Right.
Right.
And that was the hardest thing for me because I when I first moved here, you know, when you're getting into like, you know, the influencer lifestyle, I guess you can say, you meet with other influencers, and I became friends with one, and yeah, that's literally her life, is just going out, drinking, have a good time. And that's, I mean, she doesn't really care about friends at all. And unfortunately, like, I I hate to say that about that one person, but it's just, it sucks because like you're watching this person that could be so much better.
You're what you're saying is that you can see that she's operating from a place of pain,
Yeah,
right? Because everything that you're doing is just to cope
right.
with what you're feeling and you're avoiding. And you don't realize that the more that you use those coping mechanisms, the more you pick up the drink, the more you pick up that cigarette, the more you pick up that blunt, the more you pick up whatever it is that is allows you to take the attention away from what you're feeling,
Yeah,
the longer you're going to prolong that hurt and that pain.
right.
The best thing you can do is just chill the fuck out, sit down and just feel those things.
Right.
Let those emotions pass. I know they suck. Sometimes you got to cry through it. Sometimes whatever it is that you have to do. But
Right.
the more that you use a coping mechanism to run away from yourself, the more you're never going to run away from yourself. You're never going to catch up.
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of times there are people that don't understand those emotions that they're feeling. And so it's so easy to just pick up another drink and
Yeah.
feel better for the moment.
Right.
And it just
only
puts
hang
you in
out
a
with
deeper
people-
hole. Right.
Yeah, and
Absolutely,
just,
bro.
Like literally just hang out with people and just go out and drink every day.
Yeah.
And like they consider them like their solid core team.
That's nuts,
Like
dude.
the only time that you
That's
guys get
nuts.
together
Right.
is to drink.
I'm like, those people would probably not be at your funeral if you passed away.
No.
I don't think any of
They
them
would probably
would.
show up drunk. Maybe.
Right. Right.
But
Pour one up for the homie.
yeah, literally, and like go on with their day and still party. But like the fact that they don't have,
Anybody
like I
that
said,
they can lean on.
yeah,
Like
and
your friends.
Yeah, and
Like-
like I said, like when I first got here, I wanted to get into the lifestyle. I thought that was the lifestyle to have. I was like, okay,
Right.
well, this is like this is cool, whatever, going
Yeah.
out and like whatever. And I started realizing like again with my own values that I have and where I grew up and how I was raised. My grandfather would be turning in his grave if he was there to see me do that stuff.
Mm.
Like he that was not a thing. I didn't even
Right.
start drinking until I moved
When
to
you
Florida.
when if he saw you being a follower, not a leader, right?
Yeah.
There's a great, you know who Russ is, the rapper. There's a great quote that came to
Yeah,
my mind
Russ.
just now, where he says, "My grandpapa would turn in his grave if he saw that there was a boss of me when there's a boss in me."
Mm.
I was like thinking about that. I
Yeah,
was like,
Russ got
yeah,
some hard
yeah,
lyrics.
does have some hard
Him and
lyrics.
Logic both.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they got some, and Kendrick too.
Now, I do want to touch on that because obviously you are in the influencer space. Let's talk about the effects, and because I think there are a lot of people that do in that space operate from a place of ego and a place of materialistic value. And for anybody that wants to get in that space, what's your give them some tips.
Yeah, so I actually have friends that are trying to get in that space, and I have one friend in particular. I'm not going to say his name, but I have one friend that is on a certain brand that's completely opposite from what he was doing, and he was posting very like sexual content ish, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's not the way to go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like your brand is this, sexually content is this.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go that way, I'm not going to judge you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
get your money. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're wanting to focus on this,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people are so like it's hard to find what your niche is, because it's like, what do I do? And before I started like, really getting into like Instagram and getting into sponsorships and stuff like that, I read this book called Expert Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And this book is literally the definition on how to build a business too. And reading that book, well, a social media business. And reading this book has helped me develop so much as a, business person, also like social media, and also had to manage, my own business as, one. So for the advice of someone that's starting out to be a influencer, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, definitely keep a high level for sure. Don't let the numbers like affect your personality. Don't let the
Mm-hmm.
numbers affect who you are as a person,
Mm-hmm.
because they will see that for
Right.
sure. Always
Right.
acknowledge people. Always be there for people, and definitely find what your talent is. Obviously, I do workout videos, but I only post leg workout videos because that's what my talent is, I guess. I didn't choose it, my
Right.
viewers did.
Right.
That's something that they saw first was, oh my god, like I want to do your legs. Like every time I was trying to work out with someone, I was like, yeah, what do you want to do? You want to do back? No, I want to do legs.
Right. And you
Okay.
go look for one of your videos and you
Yeah,
specialize in that.
right. And like, and I'm every single person I work out with, I'm like, no, I want to do legs, like, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I should start building on that. And then once I did and became the quad specialist or
Mm-hmm.
quad daddy or
Mm-hmm.
quad poppy, whatever they want to call me.
Quadzilla.
Yeah, quadzilla, lamb chops. I mean, I heard it all, but I just built it on that,
Yeah.
and it started setting off.
Yeah. How many people are operating in that space, not operating in their values, and they're operating for likes and not really for what they stand for?
Honestly, it's really rare to find like a influencer that is actually genuine.
Yeah.
And I'm not boasting at all,
Right.
but I definitely have been told that a lot. Like I am actually really genuine and super nice, and they never expected that.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see how like my page could look like that, and and that's why I wanted to do something like this, because like I feel like my voice is never you know
Projected.
yeah, like I
Mm-hmm.
don't ever like project my actual voice on my page. I just post like a leg
Right.
workout and like
Right.
some brands here
Mhm.
and there, and like talk about the brands. But definitely, like I said, things are changing for sure. I want
Yeah.
to start getting more into like mental health and like doing all that, and because that's where I came from,
Right.
and yeah, so
Right. It seems like people on your page are looking at you from the outside in, but this is a way to be able to let people in on
right,
who Zach is
right, and I feel
and
like
his story.
Exactly, and I feel like with me actually like going to like the dinners or like groups and meetups and stuff or other collabs, I feel like the people actually see actually who I am,
Right.
and they're like, oh, this dude is cool, and
Right.
like they
Right.
I think that's why I
Right.
like partner up with so
Yeah.
many like people, because it's like they actually see me and they're actually like, yeah, he's actually like
You're
genuine.
being yourself and you're genuine. You're building other people up, and that also people value even people that don't that are, let's say, operating from ego. They'll see somebody like you who's kind and they want to be more like that. Some people don't
Yeah,
know how to be kind and be nice, and
right.
because you're so insecure about yourself that it's so hard for you to build somebody up.
Hmm.
You don't realize that's such a superpower, right?
Right. And like you have like such an advantage, like even
Right.
in a job interview.
Kindness will take you everywhere,
Yeah,
bro. Absolutely.
like in a job interview, like you can have confidence and you can have
Hmm.
like this and that, but there's certain things like in a job interview that people look for, and
Hmm.
it's definitely becoming a genuine person and also being relatable. And some people just cannot do that. They can't relate at all,
Right.
and literally can't relate.
I love that you said that word relatable because I think that is also one of the roadblocks within our interpersonal communication when we have friendships or
Yeah,
relationships is we don't know how to relate to other people, and I think that's such a valuable skill set to know how to do, and I think our environment has allowed us to,
yeah,
how we grew up allowed us to relate to people, because I think what it takes to relate to other people is being yourself, and that means being vulnerable, and that means also, in order to be vulnerable, you also have to be confident in who you are, because people
right,
that are not confident in who they are not willing to be vulnerable,
right.
right, and accept themselves for who they are, because they're just putting up a facade. They're just want to be perceived as a certain way, not really for who they are deep down behind the closed doors, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on.
Yeah. Welcome back. We are back. Getting deep in this thing.
Deep in the ocean.
Deep in the
We down
ocean.
in here with the colored
Woo,
fish.
man. So, thank you, Zach, for doing this podcast for me and with me.
Sure.
Obviously, me doing this podcast, one of the impacts that I wanted to have is in the mental health space.
Mm.
I do believe that there are a lot of people, men and women, that are out in the world that are suffering silently, that are going through depression, that have anxiety, that don't feel like they're good enough. Um, Obviously, times have changed a lot. 3 out of 4 people that commit suicide are men. So I value anybody that is willing to come sit in that chair, share their story, be vulnerable. So I honor everything that you have shared. My question to you is, have you ever, I have a couple, I'm sorry. Have you ever dealt with a mental health or been depressed, and what is mental health and how important is it to you?
Yeah. So I definitely have dealt with mental health for sure. Like I said, not being good enough, feeling like I wasn't being good enough, or feeling like I wasn't enough, or just not being seen. Um, and then also, I did spend some time in actual a suicide clinic before, because I did try to push that limit.
Mm.
Um, and it was tough, like in there, like, and but once you, um, there's people in there that are there to help you. I mean, that is their job. So you have like your social worker, you have your therapist, and you have your psychiatrist. And they will talk to you over and over and over and over. And literally for me, I feel like my pool of getting out of that deep end was God,
Mm.
and me praying to Him. I literally prayed to Him every day.
Mm.
And I felt like this huge, like, cloud going away from me. Like I had this huge dark cloud around me at all times. And I've like like I said, just praying and praying and praying, I felt so much clarity, and all I saw was you know green grass and sunny skies.
Mm.
And then that's when like I said, I moved here, and I wanted to talk about mental health because there's so many people out there that don't embrace their mental health, and that is creating a bigger problem for yourself,
Right.
because you're basically holding something in. You're trying to cage a beast that
Mm-hmm.
wants to come out, and then once it comes out, it's, you know, it's a big problem. It's hard to manage the big beast that was trying to come out. So definitely getting a therapist for sure, or getting a friend. Like, if, you know, if therapist is expensive, or, you know, psychiatry is expensive, because I know it is, definitely getting one solid friend that you could just talk to and will be there for you no matter what.
Mm.
And I feel like even if I was unable to afford a therapist or a psychiatrist, I know that Connor would be that guy for me.
Mm.
And if anyone on here that, you know, is looking out for, um, you know, someone or a therapist or psychiatrist, definitely, you know, looking into it with your job. Your job provides that too as well. That's part of like their benefits. You know, going to a HR person and just saying, hey, I just want to know like what the therapy sessions are like, or psychiatry sessions, because there are actually a lot of benefits that your insurance has about mental health that you might not even know about.
Right.
So such as like, you know, getting like a week or like a 7 day free trial or whatever for a therapist, and then after that, that's when they start charging your insurance and
Mm.
stuff. But definitely like look into that,
Right.
because like I said, the way that the world is going right now with inflation, recession, and all that,
Right.
it's causing a huge depression.
A lot of pressure on people.
Exactly. And I, like I said, you know, with family and stuff like that, there's so many categories to go into mental health.
Mm.
And I felt like with my category, it was not being seen and not being good enough.
Mm.
So with that, it definitely puts a huge weight on me, because everywhere I go, I was thinking like I wasn't good enough to be their friend, good enough to, you know, talk to them,
Right.
or just not good enough at all.
Right, and that little voice in your head just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and
Exactly.
bigger until you, like you said, it turns into a beast that you're trying to lock in, and eventually you can't hold it in anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, and thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people, at least for me, it was difficult to admit that maybe I am a little depressed, especially as a man. I didn't want to be. I'm like, I've gone through tougher things. I'm not gonna say I'm depressed. And I think once you're able to admit that, because I'm like, if you're like me and you spent your entire day going to work, and then you just come home and you sit in a dark room and you're smoking weed all day long,
You're depressed.
and you're not talking to anybody else because you don't want to go out into the world, you're depressed. You're not taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're not eating the right foods. Like,
Yeah.
you are depressed,
Yeah.
man.
And if you're going out
Right.
literally every weekend and
Right.
just getting drunk every night, or
Right.
you know, every time that you just want to go out is
Right.
to drink, you're depressed, and
Absolutely.
you have a mental illness, and
Right.
you need to get that.
Right, right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, I think that might be a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Thanks
think?
for having
Yeah,
me.
of course, absolutely. Thanks
Yeah,
for doing it
it
for
was
me, absolutely,
amazing.
and thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think your story is super, super impactful, and I can't wait for you to share some more.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this prior to you sharing your personal experience with depression and mental health. And what I told you, and I think I'm gonna re-mention it because I think it's powerful, and I think a lot of people need to hear it. I think when you have the fact that you built that courage up to be able to share this on this mic and share it with the world is extremely honorable. And if there's anybody out there that feels a type of way about sharing their struggles in life, what I told Zaqq is, the more that you hold a part of yourself in, and the more that you hide it from the world, the more that you can't be yourself, right? So it's like in that movie 8 Mile with Eminem, right? It's like, once you tell the world everything that's wrong about you and all of your insecurities, nobody else has power over you.
Yeah.
You can walk into a room and be yourself, and you can be 100% confident. And that's where I want to because I talk a lot about being vulnerable, and I think people mistake my message of vulnerability with being weak. Being vulnerable is not being weak. What I mean by vulnerable is accepting your truth and being who you are.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable is the same thing as being truthful, right? And so when you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, which is being truthful with yourself first and foremost, then you're going to go out into the world and operate from a place where you have to put on a mask every single time that you go out into the world, and you're never going to have the confidence to look somebody in the eye and be personal. You're going to attract fake people, and I'm speaking from personal experience because I still have to fight myself every time I walk into a gym or into a room to, and that's what I was telling my roommate. I'm like, when I go into the gym, I have to fight my ego every single time because I am so insecure being in there, and that's why I talk to people. Because if I allow my ego to win, then I will make everybody my enemy. And I know that the world's not my enemy. The world will smile at you if you smile at it back.
Yeah.
And so that's why I have to, in that moment where I'm like, maybe using as an example, lifting next to a guy or comparing myself to somebody that I think in my mind is better than me, or just, doing that comparison game, I literally go and talk to that person. I'm like, hey man, like, that's impressive what you're doing. And then you realize that the enemy is just in your head, bro. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? You're the one that's beating yourself to the punch. Like, nobody, like, how are you going to get into a fight and you're the one that knocked yourself out first?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that message on vulnerability, and that's what Zaqq did here. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, especially as a man when you're willing to be able to put your story out there and share it with the world and take it or leave it. This is who I am. Yeah. So thank you for doing that, bro. I really appreciate you. Of course, man.
Yeah, letting me share my story.
Absolutely. And y'all go get Zaqq screens. Give him that website.
Yeah.
What's the website?
Posting it up here right now.
Yeah, we'll post it. Yeah. So, all right, man. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate you. And that wraps up podcast number 2. We'll be back. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Thank you for listening to that episode of the Do It Now podcast. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed the podcast or if it brought you any type of value, we kindly ask that you share, like, follow, and subscribe to keep up with new episodes and to share this conversation with someone that might need to hear it. Thank you again. And as always, do it now.